obviously I can never imagine kissing a stranger anymore. Also so cute, like this was actually genuinely so romantic. Honestly, I think it's one of the best dates I've ever been on. Fuck, like why isn't there this attraction? But I was like, I need to, you know, like literally get over my ex, get under someone else. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Lo, and this week's video is another Fellow Friday video. So for those of you who are new here, Fellow Friday is the series on my channel where I talk about a different kind of fella or boy each Friday that I've encountered in my dating life. So let's jump right into it. Today's Fellow Friday is the Just Not Right guy. This story is from summer 2018, so a little while ago. I've had actually like more of these guys. I think this is a really common phenomenon, but I'll talk about one guy in this story. So summer 2018, I am going to grab drinks with a friend at a bar in Amsterdam, back when we could still go to bars. And it was like this kind of beachy bar. Well, actually I can say it's called Strand Zuid, like Beach South in Amsterdam. It's a really nice bar restaurant if you guys are interested. And they have like a fake beach and you kind of like sit there, have like drinks. So we had drinks and it was kind of like a DJ night. So I was with this girl that I'd met in my rowing sorority, and yeah, we were just like hanging out, talking, catching up. I hadn't seen her in a while, and suddenly these two guys come over to us, and this is like the typical scenario: two girls alone, two guys alone, you know, come over. And there's one guy, and I have to admit, I don't think I was necessarily like straight away attracted to him, but he was like very confident, which I liked. He like wasn't very tall, but had like messy brown hair, kind of like still looked quite boyish, but he was just like really confident. Came over, he's like, hey, what's your name, like how are you, but in like a genuine way, not in like a, you know, kind of those fuck boys who are just like, oh hey baby, how are you doing, but like no, like a genuine, wanted to strike up a conversation. So we started talking, and it turns out that he was from the US, but his father was Dutch, his mother was American. He'd grown up in New Jersey his whole life, but he had moved to Amsterdam to go to uni because he wanted to experience this like Dutch culture, Dutch side, and I found that like super attractive. And like right away we started speaking English because his English was a lot better than his Dutch. But I was like, wow, that is exactly kind of what I face. I grew up abroad, but I am Dutch, and I moved to Amsterdam for uni because I wanted to explore my Dutch culture. And so we just like completely hit it off on that. We were like really similar. He was very also into politics, I think he studied political science. Like we just had a lot to banter on off of that, which is something that I usually feel like in Amsterdam I wouldn't really have with guys. Like we wouldn't have like deep political talks right away. We were just like getting into US politics, and yeah, I just like immediately felt a vibe with this guy. And so the friend that I was with was like, hey, she already had told me that she just could grab one drink because she had a dinner that she had to go to. She was like, oh, I have to go to my dinner, like Lois, do you want to go, or like how, like what's up? And this guy was like, hey, you know, I know this other cool bar, do you want to bike over there and go to this bar? And I was like, yeah, like I'd like to go to that bar with you. So we went to a different bar, and it was this like, I'd never been there before, but it was definitely like this like artsy hipster, I could tell he was like kind of hipster, like bar, like where you had all these old like velvet couches and plush chairs and people kind of like sitting on the ground. There was all these books like lined up. But it was a really cool place. I was like, oh, thank you for taking me here. And we just like had more conversations, talked, and I like immediately kind of was like, wow, this guy is amazing. Like he's such a good conversationalist. Like we are really hitting it off, like love it. But again, I didn't know if I felt that attraction to him. I wasn't like, well, I want to like take you home right now. So at the end of the date, but okay, pre-COVID times, I am usually like at the end of a date, I guess this wasn't really a date because I just met him, but you know, if I'm kind of trying to see if I'm interested, I will usually kiss a guy because I feel like it's just a good way to tell if you have that spark, if you have that connection. Like obviously if you know right away like that you're not interested, you don't necessarily have to kiss a guy to like know even better. But if I'm kind of like on the fence, kissing is usually kind of a good way to be like, oh, did I feel something or not? Pre-COVID. Now obviously I can never imagine kissing a stranger anymore, but pre-COVID I would on occasion be known to kiss a stranger. So we stayed until it closed. The bar ended up closing, so we were like walking to our bikes. He walks over to my bike with me, and he gives me like the most awkward hug. Like not even, you know when you have like a romantic hug where at least the guy's like kind of like holding your waist, like a literal like hug, pat on the back, like friendship hug. So I was like, okay, this is not gonna be it. Like, this is not, but we'd exchanged numbers. I was like, yeah, text me sometime. So before I even got home, I was like literally biking back. I get a text from him that's like, hey, I really enjoyed meeting you. I would love to take you out sometime. And I don't know why I did this. I feel like I was drunk. I was like, hey, I really enjoyed meeting you as well, but I'm just not sure if there's like any, if you mean this in like a romantic sense, because I'm not sure, like you didn't even try to kiss me, if there was that vibe. I feel like, why did I even ask him that? But I just like, I wanted to know, like, why didn't you try to kiss me? Like, what's wrong? Are you not interested? And he was like, yeah, I was just really nervous because I really like you. Would you like go on a date with me? And I was like, okay, well, this is actually really sweet. Like the fact that he's like nervous, it's cute. So we decide to meet up for drinks again. And again, conversation amazing. Took me to 2 really cool bars. He knew like all these really cool places, which was awesome. Like definitely like planned out where he wanted to go. He was like, yeah, I know this really cool spot, I'll take you, which I love. I love when a guy like takes charge. Is like, I want to take a girl here. I know a cool place. I want to do this activity. I love that. So major plus points for him. But again, the date, like we, you know, are talking and we're just totally vibing. And I was like, this guy is so sweet. He had a really great relationship with his family. He was so knowledgeable about like politics and current events, and we could have like discussions, because we definitely didn't agree on a lot, but we could have discussions, but with being like super respectful about each other, which I love. I love a guy who can give me his own opinion but still respects mine. So I was just like, wow, this guy's like perfect boyfriend material, dating material, amazing. But there was just something inside of me that was like, I'm just not that attracted to him. I don't know like why. I'm not totally feeling it. So we end up going to like a second bar after that. We went to like this brewery actually, which is really cool. And we're sitting outside and he's like, yeah, so again, he was like, said he was shy, but he was also really confident. It was quite endearing actually. He was like, could be really shy, but also could be like the most confident guy out there. He like loved public speaking, loved debating, stuff like that. So he was just like, oh, about our like the last time we met, you said I didn't kiss you, and he just like stands up and kisses me like over the table, which again was just a bit awkward. It was just like it was like just not exactly how you'd expect in the movies, but it was cute, you know, like the fact that he did like work up the courage to kiss me. So yeah, we kissed and I was like, okay, you know, it wasn't bad, it wasn't amazing, but it wasn't bad. So I don't know, I got home that night afterwards. He like again didn't really try to get me to come home with him or anything, which I mean super respectful, but so I guess that was like our second meeting, our second date, I would say. But I just like wasn't sure. I was like, do I like this guy, do I not like this guy? Like I knew I loved talking to him, I knew I loved hanging out with him, but I wasn't getting that vibe like I like dating you or I want to date you. But you know, I really was like, I have some time to explore this, I don't need to know right away. So he texted me again like almost right away. He's like, hey, next weekend Friday night is my night, I have a surprise for you planned. Which I'm like, okay, I don't know if this is a really big difference between dating in the US and in the Netherlands, but check out my America versus the Netherlands video on dating. But literally like in the Netherlands it's always just like, hey, let's grab a drink, let's go to a bar, like very casual. On a first date, rarely in my experience will a guy put an effort to actually like make plans to surprise you. Even in the beginning dates, like even if you're kind of starting to see with someone, it's always just like grab a drink, grab a drink, grab a drink, and then maybe at a certain point it'll be like go to a movie or do something fun. But not that people will be like, I have a date plan for you. Versus my experience dating in the US or like American guys are a lot more like, oh, like I have this whole thing planned, or we'll go like bowling or whatever. Okay, but anyway, so this guy is American and Dutch, so I was like, oh, this is really cute, this is like very American. So he's like, didn't tell me what we were doing. On Friday night, I had mentioned that I really wanted to go to like an open air cinema. This was summertime, so I didn't want to do that this summer, and I hadn't like done that yet in Amsterdam. So what he did is we met at like Central Station in Amsterdam, and we took the little boat to Amsterdam North. It was also so cute. Like this was actually genuinely so romantic. It was like sunset, we're standing on this boat, like literally Titanic style. We were like kind of like, he had his arm around me. But again, I didn't really feel anything, and I was like, shit, if I'm not feeling anything in like the most romantic setting, like what is happening? But the surprise was when we got to Amsterdam North, there's this cafe called Plek, and they organize like outdoor cinema events. And it was so cute. He had like made a reservation for us. We had all these like pillows and blankets and like a little picnic, and it was an outdoor movie. We had like silent movies, so you could put on like headphones, but then we were sitting like on this beach with super nice view of Amsterdam because you're like in the north side looking over the water with this movie. It was honestly, I think it's one of the best dates I've ever been on. So sweet, so thoughtful. Drinks were ready for us. It was like literally the cutest. I was like, oh my god. So we watched the movie. After that we had a couple more drinks, then we took the boat back to like central Amsterdam. And again, it was great. We kissed at the end of the date, but there just wasn't that spark. There wasn't that attraction, which honestly when I got home I was like, fuck, like why isn't there this attraction? Because he was the perfect guy. I've literally never met a guy who was more respectful, who planned dates like that, who I could have such great conversations with, but I just like wasn't attracted to him. So this is kind of what I mean with the just not right guy. There's like one little thing that's off, even though in your head this guy is the perfect boyfriend material. And I could tell he was like super into it. And I think he was a bit more like, oh, do you want to come back to mine? But I was just like, no, like not really, not tonight. So afterwards he texted me again to hang out, and I think he was like kind of also texting me stuff like, oh, I'm like having such a good time with you, like I really like you. Like in that sense he was again a lot more American, like very forthcoming with his feelings, and very much like I'm dating to find a girlfriend. Like we'd even talked about it, like are you looking for a relationship, and he was definitely like, yeah, I'd really be down to be in another relationship. So I was just like, I don't want to lead this guy on. I texted him and I was like, hey, I'm so sorry, like I genuinely, you are like one of the nicest guys that I've ever met, but I just don't feel like it's more than a friendship thing. I hope, you know, you understand that. And then he was like, yeah, no, I totally understand. And he had just finished his undergrad and he was moving back to the States. So he was like, it also makes sense, like I'm getting kind of ahead of myself. This isn't going to be a relationship because I'm moving back to the States, but I'd love to stay friends. So we still followed each other on Instagram. We, you know, like we were Facebook friends. We definitely were like cool with each other. So a couple of weeks later, like near the end of the summer, I am headed to New York for a couple days before heading to LA for vacation. And I was meeting up with my ex-boyfriend. For those of you who don't know me personally, I've had like I would say one actual serious relationship in my life. We're not going to get into it because that could be like a whole Fella Friday series. Maybe one day I'll do that, but it's a lot more personal that I don't want to talk about at the moment. But anyway, I was meeting up with my ex-boyfriend on and off. We had a really weird dynamic, but I hadn't seen him in 2 years. So I was meeting up with my ex-boyfriend for the first time in 2 years. And basically that whole thing went really badly. Like I was basically crushed, crying, awful. So that night I was like, oh, I just feel like shit, like I want to go on a date. I was staying at the Dream Hotel in downtown New York in the Meatpacking District, amazing hotel, and they had this really great rooftop bar, and I was like, fuck it, like I should just go to this bar by myself. And I was like, I don't want to go to a bar by myself. I was like, who do I know in New York? And I was like, oh, this guy just moved to New Jersey. So I texted him, I'm like, hey, this is so random, are you down to drive into the city from Jersey? Do you want to like have a drink? And he's like, yeah, no, like totally, like I'll take the train and we'll have a drink. And he was like, but can I then stay with you, like, you know? And I was like, I need to, you know, like literally get over my ex, get under someone else. So I was like, yeah, of course you can stay with me, you just have to leave early in the morning because we were flying to LA the next day. So basically me and this guy decided to meet up in the Meatpacking at this bar. It was really like really fun. I had never really been like out drinking with someone in New York. I was under 21 at the time, sorry. But we were at this really cool bar and it was really nice, and again the conversation was amazing. We ended up going back to the Dream Hotel where I was and went to PhD Rooftop. It's a really famous rooftop in New York and it's hard to get into, but because I was staying at the hotel, I had a hotel key card, we got up right away. It turns into like this club with amazing views of Manhattan. So we were like at this club dancing, but again like we're drinking, dancing, and he's like trying to like kind of kiss me, like grab me, and I was just like not feeling it. And I was already like heartbroken, of course, because of my ex-boyfriend. So I literally am almost ashamed of what I did, but it's like 3 a.m. at this point. He would have to like he had to take like a train. He took in a train from New York, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm getting kind of tired. And I'm like, yeah, so am I. So he's like, oh, should we go back to the room? And I kind of knew, like the way I texted him, it was kind of insinuated that like, well, we were gonna like hook up. And just something in my mind was like, I just can't hook up with this guy. Like I'm just not, I don't feel it. Like I wish, literally every fiber of my being wishes that I felt this for this guy, because I honestly feel like we'd have an amazing relationship, but I just didn't. So I'm like, hey, I'm so sorry. I know you said you could stay with me, but I'm not feeling well. I've had a really emotional day. Is there any chance you can get back to New Jersey? So basically he ends up going back to New Jersey. He was definitely really confused. He was like, what? Like, we didn't even kiss that night. Like, he tried to kiss me at the end and I was like, no. But he ends up going back to New Jersey. I feel so bad. I made this guy in the middle of the night go back from Manhattan to New Jersey. I don't even know how he got home, but I texted him later and I was like, I'm so sorry. I hope you got home okay. You know, enjoy your time in Jersey. Hope we can still be friends. And he basically replied like, it's okay, but very like cold. A couple months later, I found out he moved back to Amsterdam, and a lot of other stuff happened that I don't want to get into because of his privacy. But basically, we never talked after that. But I do feel just bad because, you know, I definitely could have handled that situation a lot better. Again, I'm definitely not perfect in dating. I've definitely made my mistakes. I've definitely had like fucking obnoxious moments that I could have handled a lot better. But what I wanted to tell with the story is not just hate on myself, is talk about how you literally can meet someone who has everything on your checklist. He was the perfect guy in my eyes. Like, everything that I would want in a guy. He had planned dates, romantic, great discussions, was so like sweet, and it can still not work. Like, I feel like in my opinion, in relationships, there has to just be like that chemical attraction, that spark, and that just wasn't there on my side, and I'm really sad that it wasn't. And I've had this before where like I've been with a guy and I've been like, oh my god, he's perfect, he's the guy that I'm looking for, but just something inside of me, like even when we were meeting up, I would always get like a bit of a stomach ache. I just like not feel well going to meet up with him, even though when I was on the date I'd have an amazing time, but something inside of me just knew that it wasn't right. And I think my tip for this would be like, obviously give something time to develop. You might not know right away that you're interested in someone. Like, I've heard people who have been like friends and then like a year later suddenly they're like, oh, I'm actually attracted to this person. But I do feel like if, you know, at a certain point you realize that you don't want more and the other person does, if it's just not right, listen to your feelings. Your body is telling you this stuff for a reason, and it's better to not lead someone on. So I'm happy at least I did sort of lead him on, but not too long. But yeah, and I think sometimes even if someone is everything you're looking for, if that feeling isn't there, you can't convince yourself that it should be a relationship. So I don't know, let me know if you guys have experienced this as well. I feel like this is kind of a common thing, right? I've talked about this with friends as well, where they're like, yeah, he's literally everything I'm looking for, but it just doesn't feel right. And I'm sure guys experience this too. So yeah, let me know what you thought. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys again soon with a new Fellow Friday video. Bye!